Hi there, everyone. Just checking. We still have a couple of minutes before we start, which is just fine. We'll give everybody a little bit of time to join. Hi there, everyone. Just checking. We still have a couple of minutes before we start. Sorry about that. We've got double volume. Always technical issues as we're doing this, so we always have to work those out, which is why we start a little early. Hopefully all of you are excited to get started, as well as I am. I'm excited to share my information with all of you and hopefully answer some of the questions that you all have for me. I see there are a couple of questions. We're going to hold off on those until later on, but I appreciate you starting to put those in and add those in so that we can start to address those. I'm actually just reading some of them right now. Okay, good. So we'll address some of these because I'm sure that my answers to some of your questions can benefit multiple people. So I want to save those for a little bit. But we've got an action-packed hour full of all sorts of good information, hopefully, for you guys. So we'll get started in just a couple minutes. Grab your tea, grab your water, get comfy. Okay. It's always fun to talk to myself on a screen because I can't see anybody else behind me, right? But I can see viewers, so I know some of you are there. Thank you for all the wives and ladies who are joining us on behalf of their spouses, partners, or husbands. I appreciate that. That shows your commitment. That's exciting to see. Okay, so we'll get started in just a minute or so. You want to wave to everybody?
No.
No? Talking to my assistant, Anna, over there. She's going to be shy. She doesn't want to get on camera. She lets me do that. So we're going to be talking, this topic is this Google Hangout is devoted to men's health in honor of Movember. I tell you that I'm growing my mustache, but I'm growing a lot more than that. And aside from the main topics that we're going to be covering, that I'm going to be covering today, which is how to improve sperm, how to improve sex drive, and how to better support your partner while you guys are trying to conceive. I also want to encourage you, which you've already started really nicely, encourage you to ask questions. Ask them now. You don't have to wait till later. I'll go back and I'll look through all the questions and be able to answer them. This is a live Q&A, so I want to be able to address the questions that you have, as well as address the topics that I want to cover as well today. So, let's work together on that. So, for those who are just joining us, I can see we have several new viewers. Welcome. I'm Mark Sklar. I'm excited to be here and share what I hope is very useful and practical information for all of you to help improve your fertility and get you moving in the right direction. This is November or Movember, which is why we're doing this in honor of Men's Health Month, is really devoting this hang out towards how we can improve sperm count, male fertility, and everything surrounding that, which is why today we're going to be covering how to improve sperm quality, count, everything around sperm or semen analysis, I should say, how to improve your sex drive, and how to better support your female partner while you're trying to conceive. Now, my personal perspective and preference in terms of how I handle and treat things is going to be from the natural side of things. It doesn't mean that I'm opposed to medication when necessary. It doesn't mean that I'm opposed to other sorts of treatments, but I just have my preference for what I think works well, and how to do it. But I also think there's sometimes need for other things and other ways to do it. So without further ado, let's get started. Okay, so how to improve sperm. So the first thing I want to clarify is what are the three parameters that we're trying to address, right? Oftentimes these words get mixed up and confused. I find that many of us don't understand what they all mean and how they work together. So we've got three main factors that we're trying to address. We've got sperm count, the total number of sperm per ejaculate, the sperm motility, which is how well the sperm swim in a forward direction towards their end goal, which is the egg. And then sperm morphology, the shape, how do they look? And so every sperm should have one head, a body, and a tail, and it should not have any variations from that. And so any variation from that is going to affect morphology. All of that being said, we have to recognize that the majority of sperm that men produce are abnormal. I want to say that again out loud for everybody to listen and digest. The majority of sperm that men produce are abnormal. So we only produce a very small number of healthy sperm that's usable, but that's also why we produce millions of sperm per ejaculate, because we don't expect all of them to get to where they need to go and do what we need them to do. It's also why we need that many millions to just get one to get to the egg and get inside. So, but all of those numbers, so motility and morphology, are percentages based on the total number, the sperm count. So all of those numbers are factored in or based off of sperm count, and sperm count is a really, really important number. Of all the numbers, that's really, really essential. If you're not producing any sperm, we have a harder time making that work and changing that outcome versus if you have millions to work with. Motility, the way the sperm swim, we're looking at about 50% or so should be normal and 50% should be abnormal, roughly. And then when it comes to morphology, the way they look, where that number shrinks very much so. So we'd like to have around 14% normal. We can have less than that, but it just depends on varying degrees what we're looking at. So what I've learned over the years is that we're going to have a lot of different areas or factors that will affect the quality of the sperm. And I'm using quality to mean all three of those factors that we mentioned before. And so I'm going to touch on all of them real quick, and then I'm going to come back to them. Okay, but just remember, and I'll probably come back to this point in just a minute, but the quality of male sperm is a reflection of your overall health. If your overall health is good, then your sperm should be good. If your overall health is bad, then your sperm will reflect that. The only reason that this is not the case, the only variation from this, is if there's some genetic abnormality that's causing this to occur. Okay? If not, there's some other reason why this is happening that needs to be addressed. And that reason could be physical, it could be emotional, it could be all sorts of different reasons. So some of those are nutrition. Nutrition is a huge factor. Kind of wrapped up into nutrition is going to be alcohol consumption, exercise, stress, and I'll just leave that broadly. We'll come back to that. Are you getting the proper nutrients, and do we need to supplement? And then what's the temperature of the in the pelvic area, around the testicles, around the scrotum? What's the temperature? And then are you affected by other chemicals, toxins, radiation, things of that nature? So we've got multiple factors that are going to affect and or improve sperm. So the place to start, I think one of the easier ones to start with, is going to be nutrition. Okay, nutrition is an easy place to start. It's also one of the more important ones that needs to be addressed. So it's very easy, and I think I get somewhat misguided, because living in Southern California, I think that everyone eats well, but that's not necessarily the case. But it's very easy to go off track with our diet, and diet is one of the harder things that we ask patients to do. It's one of the harder things that it is for anybody to change, especially this time of year with all the holidays around the corner, that it makes it very challenging to change diet. So one of the guiding principles I try to use with patients is that we want to live within the 80-20 rule. There'll be times where you might need to be more strict around that, and you'll have to be maybe closer to 100% strict with yourself and your diet. There'll be other times where you might have to be a little bit more flexible depending on the circumstances. But we want to shoot for an overall 80-20 diet. 80% where you're eating unrefined foods, very little, if no, sugar, especially processed sugar, although you can have some natural sugars. You want to stay away from fried foods. We want to eat whole food, fresh, non-processed, non-packaged, freshly cooked, healthy meats, healthy vegetables, healthy fats. And you want that to be the guiding principle of what we're trying to initiate as our overall premise throughout our diet. Oftentimes I get men who tell me, well, my wife doesn't want me to eat meat. She says it's bad for me. What do you think? I don't have an issue with any type of meat or protein. My issue is going to be around the quality of that food. So if that meat is McDonald's versus that meat being grass-fed organic beef from the farm, those are drastically two different things, right? So we can't, just because I'm saying eat meat, that shouldn't be an excuse to eat bad meat. So we have to eat well, we have to eat healthy, and we have to be very conscious and make a conscious decision. Do you want to take care of yourself? Do you want to improve and make a conscious decision to improve your fertility and your overall health? And you have to make these steps. And by all means, these first steps that you take will be hard. They'll be the harder ones. So in the beginning, to change the way you eat, to eat frequently, it's going to be difficult. But in the long run, you get used to it and it becomes normal. My wife today says, when we met now almost 15 years ago, the way she ate then to the way she eats now is completely different. And she even says that when she has some of those foods that she used to eat, it doesn't taste the same. Your taste buds change. You become accustomed to different things. And so it's very normal for that to shift, but it takes a little bit of time. So you want to eat as clean as possible. In addition, you want to eat frequently throughout the day. So 3 good meals with some snacks if you need them, especially I find that the time we really need is in the afternoon. And you have to stay hydrated. Sperm need a lot of fluids, and so they need to stay hydrated. So it's important to drink plenty of water, drink plenty of good quality water, and stay hydrated. On top of it, like most men that I know, they're working hard, they're stressed, and they need a little bit of stress reduction. And what they tend to rely on and use for that stress reduction is alcohol. And not that I have an issue with a little bit of alcohol, but I think the amount that we use needs to vary depending on your situation and the circumstances. And in addition to that, the type of alcohol that we eat we need to be careful with. So I do not recommend that any man, as much as I love them myself, I don't recommend that you drink beer. It's very difficult to digest. It's hard on the sperm. The yeast in and of itself is difficult. And although it's tasty, it's not great for us. So my preference, if you're going to have some alcohol, stick to some red wine, which actually has tons of health benefits as well. You can have some hard liquor as long as it's not mixed with a lot of sugary fluids, like it's best if it's taken just straight. And the other reason for that is we tend to not be able to drink as much of those things as we could drink beer. Like you could sit down and probably have a 6-pack, but you could only have like 1 or 2 drinks of hard liquor. So I encourage that. And in addition, I don't really want you having a lot of alcohol. I think it's okay here and there. 1 to 3 drinks per week is fine, but none of this binge drinking, and everything in moderation. So I encourage you to be careful there, and not overdo it when it comes to alcohol. But then you might say, well, then how do I manage my stress? Well, there's got to be other ways and other things that you can do to manage your stress. If you have to rely on alcohol to manage your stress, then certainly there's an issue that a bigger issue that needs to be addressed, and we need to find a way to address that for you. So exercise is a great way to manage stress, and I would encourage you to do that. I would also say that, well, there's different forms of exercise and different things you can do. Like for myself, I prefer to go hiking or take a walk on the beach. Give me a backpack and let me go for a backpacking trip, and I'm happy as can be. But that doesn't work for everybody. And some people prefer to go running and biking. And you can get me to run unless I'm actively playing a sport and chasing a ball. I have no interest in running. So it has to suit you and your needs, but also be able for you to do regularly. So I encourage you to find something and make it real for yourself, something that's going to be easy to do, that you enjoy doing, and that you're able to actually put it into your schedule and make it happen. But there's also other ways besides exercise to manage your stress. You can meditate, you can do yoga, you can do Tai Chi or Qigong. I enjoy a book. If I'm uninterrupted, I enjoy a good book or a good movie where I can escape. That's a stress reduction technique for myself. So there's many ways. We tend to think of stress reduction as one thing. I spoke to someone today, and she was saying how she didn't think that the walk she was going on every day was was meditation for her. But it was the only time that she was able to shut off her mind and let go. And that's completely meditation. You're not sitting down with your legs crossed and, chanting Om or listening to someone talk in your ear, but it is absolutely meditation. As long as you can let go and shut off your mind from all that chatter that's happening, it's meditation, and we all do it in different ways. A friend of mine, his way of meditating is getting on his surfboard and surfing, and that's his escape. We all have different ways. I encourage you to find yours that you can be successful at. Coming back to exercise, mind you, I think that we have to be very careful with the type of exercise we do, because remember before I talked about heat, so we need to minimize the amount of heat that we're creating in the pelvic region. And so if we're on our bike for an extended period of time, the seat's not right, or we've got, those tight spandex because we're riding or running or whatever it is, that's not great for us either. So we need to balance that out properly. I'm going to come back to supplements in a second, because I think that could be a longer conversation. I'm going to address heat for a moment. So in continuation to what I was just saying with regards to heat, it is essential that we keep that area cool. I have thought long and hard about good ways to do that. Cold bath is always something you can do, or cold shower. I don't encourage you to go into saunas or jacuzzis. That's not appropriate this time while you're trying to conceive. You can do that later. But there was some research to show that if you can cool the testicles and scrotum for consistently over a period of time and regularly, that you can increase sperm count and improve sperm quality. And that's been shown to be true. And so there is a product that I like. And I was always, until I saw this product, I was always thinking, how could something like this be created? Because I think you're just walking around with ice packs, in your underwear. And that's exactly what they created. They created, I think it's called Cool Balls, right? Is that what it's called? Snowballs, same thing. Cool Balls, Snowballs. So it's called Snowballs, and it's specific underwear that has these ice packs that get that you take out of the freezer, and they have, I don't know, 3 or 4 of them that you can interchange, and they have slots for them to hold, so you can wear your underwear, in your regular pants or shorts, and these are actually cooling the area. And you don't have to wear these all day long, but for some patients, I think it's beneficial. I had a construction worker who spent, 8 hours in his Bobcat, and it's extremely hot in there. So for him, I had him do it longer. Right. So I love this product. It's great. And the patients that I've had use it really enjoy it as well. They like it and they've spoken highly of it. I'll be sending out an email with a link for that if you need it. So you'll get that in an email coming up. And the other thing I wanted to talk about is radiation. We know for sure that these wonderful devices, the computers that I'm talking on right now, the tablets we use, all of these things promote radiation, and they promote radiation from both sides, right? So as we're using it, or as you're holding it onto your body, it's promoting this radiation. And we know for sure, there is research to promote that, to show this, that this radiation damages cells. And if you hold it too close or use it too close to your pelvic region, and many of us carry these in our pockets, our back pockets, we just hold them, wherever we think is more comfortable, and it tends to be around the pelvic region. We know that if we do it there, that it's going to disrupt and damage the cells that make up your sperm, and we want to mitigate that. So first and foremost, you won't see, but if you came to my office, you'd see that my phone tends to be on my desk all the time. If I'm not traveling from one place to another and I don't have to carry it, I'm not carrying it. When I get in my car, I take it out and I put it someplace else. So it's not on me, okay? And I encourage all of you to do the same thing. The other thing that you could do is there's a wonderful product they actually happen to be located here, I think in San Diego, if I'm not mistaken, called Safe Sleeve. And Safe Sleeve makes these, do you have yours?
No, I have, the computer one.
Yeah, can I have it? So they make these cases that are designed, this one's for your laptop, okay? And you take out your computer and you put it on top of it. And then this you can use on your lap, just like this. And it protects your pelvic area from the radioactive frequencies that are coming off of it, because it emits it out, okay? They make the same thing for cell phones. They make a case, and the only reason I don't have one is because they don't make it for my phone. But they actually just came out with a new variety, I think, for all different types of phones. Still not mine, but I think for all the more common ones. And it's got a case, a cover, so it looks like this little folio, and the part that comes to your head or to anywhere else, if you put it in your pocket the right way, is blocking the radioactive wave, the radio waves, from coming into your body and affecting your cells, and it's emitting it the other way. And I think this is really a valuable tool. I encourage all of you to look into something like that, or to just get, again, just keep this away from you as much as possible. Keep the laptop away from you as much as possible. In the same email that I send out with a link for the snowballs, we'll also do the same thing. We'll send a link to Safe Sleep for you as well. I'm going to look to see if there's any questions real quick before I continue on with some of these other topics. Give me just one moment. Great. So we got three questions here. Let's see. Okay. I'm going to start with the first one, which was posted a long time ago. It says, hi there. It's nice to hear about you. Think very much of the work you're doing and support you're giving the people. Okay. I'm based in the UK and had IVF 3 times and unfortunately went unsuccessful. My husband's sperm count is too low. It's less than 1 million. My question is it possible that my husband count can increase with any vitamins or diet so he can conceive naturally? If yes, then I need your help. Okay, so, and then second thing, what kind of postures are suitable for conceiving in this condition? I'm not quite sure what you mean by that last question in terms of posture. Possibly sexual positions. The sexual position thing has nothing to do with male fertility specifically, but more with the position of a woman's cervix. The one thing that I would think would be useful here for low sperm count like this would be the home IUI kits like the Stork that I mentioned, and we could include a link to that as well in the email that we send out after the talk. But with regards to the sperm count, I do think it's possible to change that, as I've been talking about. I do think it's absolutely possible to change that with diet and with supplements. Certainly, I know a patient who was under a lot of stress, who was eating terribly and always traveling for work. And every time we kept doing his sperm count or his semen analysis, his numbers came back terrible, terrible, terrible. And then one day we did his lab work, and I was talking to the embryologist. We happened to be there when his results came in, and he said he didn't think that these were his results because they were so good, and he was wondering what changed, what was different. And so we called the patient to see if anything changed and to confirm that this was actually his sample because it was so different than everything else. And he said, well, I took a 6-week vacation during the holidays. I wasn't traveling anymore. My stress was gone. I was able to eat and cook for myself. And in 6 weeks, his semen analysis was dramatically different. So absolutely, do I think this can change? Yes, but it's going to take a lot of effort and dedication on your part to make those changes with dietary recommendations and some of the supplements, which I'll get into in just a minute. This other question is, thanks so much for what you're doing. My husband has a low sperm count and 0% morphology. Is there anything you can do to improve it? Well, 0% morphology is difficult to change. If it's truly 0% morphology, I would encourage you to have an ultrasound done to see if there's something called a varicocele, which is basically varicose veins in the testicles. And if that's there, then that might need to be looked at and treated appropriately to see if that affects morphology. If it does affect morphology, then that's probably where it was coming from. If it doesn't affect morphology, then there might not be anything that can be done. 0% morphology is difficult to change. I at least want to see 1% that makes me feel like I can do something about it. The sperm count can change for sure. Now, that being said, what I didn't clarify earlier was that sperm count's easier to change. Sperm motility is the second easiest, and morphology is by far the hardest to change. It takes the longest, okay? Let's see another question here. Let me say, I wish your Dolphins luck next year, as this year seems hopeless. I'm in the same boat. I'm a Chargers fan. Yeah, I agree with you. I'm a huge Miami Dolphin fan, and they're just stinking it up this year, unfortunately. And yes, I'm going to go to the Chargers Dolphin game because if the Dolphins are ever here, I'm always going. So my wife and I are trying to eat clean. That's great. Where is the point when worried about what we eat is more detrimental than not having a perfect diet? That's a great question. So this goes back to the 80-20 rule, okay? You want to eat 80% of the time, you want to eat like you should, and 20% of the time you want to give yourself some flexibility. And you should try to look at it in the sense of like, this is my week, and I know that I have 21 meals a week, right? And so what's 20% of that? It's roughly about 3 meals, and I'm going to give myself some flexibility. You might want to plan for that in advance, or you just might want to say, hey, today I just feel like having whatever for lunch, and that's what I'm going to have, and be kind to yourself. I would encourage you, it's more detrimental to stress and eat right about what you're eating because it's driving you crazy than it is to eat poorly and not worry about it, right? So there's got to be balance. That doesn't mean that every time you go to eat something, we could say, well, this is okay, I feel good, and so I'm just gonna eat whatever I want. There's got to be balance there. You still have to be conscious of what you're eating, but you can't drive yourself crazy, and you have to give yourself some flexibility. And maybe during the holidays, you're on a 70-30 rule versus an 80-20, whatever it might be, but you have to give yourself some balance and some flexibility. And hopefully that answers that question for you, William. So now back to the topic of supplements, okay? There's lots of good supplements that you can take. There's a lot that can and should be done to affect fertility and sperm quality, but you might not need all of those things. So the first thing is, if you're eating a healthy diet, then that supersedes everything else. You might not need as much supplementation, okay, and a well-rounded, balanced diet. The other thing that I'd say is, then we want to start with some basic nutrients. We want to start with a good I'm not the biggest fan of multivitamins, although you can do one, but I tend to be more specific if I'm going to take a multivitamin, that it's more specifically targeted to a specific type of issue. So maybe it's full of antioxidants, or maybe it's a men's multi per se. But I don't like these one-a-days, these Centrum things. These are a waste of money. Okay, if you're paying $5 or $10 for multivitamins, that probably took them 50 cents to make, and they're probably worth nothing. Okay, so you don't want to get the cheapest vitamins. You don't need to also get the most expensive vitamins. And I'll try to look at it in terms of like cars, right? Like, I don't know how many of you are aware, but when I was growing up, there was this car called a Yugo, and it was like the cheapest beat up car you could possibly get it, but it got you from A to B, right? But when I'm talking about my vitamins, I don't want a Yugo, and I don't need the Ferrari. I tend to look at, I want reliability, and I want consistency and trust. So I look for like the Toyota or the Honda when it comes to supplements, and maybe certain things need to be a little bit better quality. But in general, that's what I'm looking for when it comes to supplementation. So the key nutrients that I want to see everybody get are zinc and selenium. I want to see you get, which could be found in a multivitamin if it's a good multi. I want to see you get your essential fatty acids, and I prefer that they come from fish or cod liver oil. And I want to see you get your vitamin D. Outside of that, everything else starts to be a little bit more specific towards certain conditions. So I think when we're starting to deal with sperm quality, then we need some good, strong antioxidants. CoQ10 is always a good one. Vitamin C is a good one, but I don't think of it as like at the top of my list of things to do or to take. And then if we are dealing with morphology and motility, that's when we start to get into some of the amino acids. We want to take L-arginine and L-carnitine. Trying to think if there's anything else that I want to say there. I said CoQ10, and one of my favorite antioxidants is called pycnogenol or pine bark, and I think that's also a strong one. So there's a lot that can be done, but you remember, the first and foremost, you want to eat well, eat balanced, and then you can add those supplements in, but you need to give them time to make change and effect. So you want to try to give, for spermatogenesis, it takes about 90 days. It could take up to 120. So you want to be taking these things consistently to see the change that you want to see when it comes to supplementation. All right. So now that we got through how to improve sperm quality, we're going to talk on how to improve sex drive. Before I do that, though, I'm going to see if there's any new questions that have come up. Well, I give you a trusted vitamin brand. Will give us a ranking of those supplements in the order that you would implement them into your diet. Well, it just, William, it just depends on what we're dealing with. What I'd say is, I would absolutely include vitamin D, essential fatty acids like fish oil or cod liver oil, CoQ10, zinc, selenium. Those are all basic foundational things that you should have. There's no priority there. Those should be in. And the other ones really just depend on what we're treating and how to put those in. In terms of a trusted brand, I tend to use companies that are pharmaceutical grade, and they are practitioner based. You can find, I think, can they find some of those links on the website?
Yeah, the supplement area, but I don't know if they are like
to some of the brands.
Supplements, yeah. If they go to the marksclar.com and then /shop.
Okay.
There's some supplements.
Yeah, so there's a link on marksclar.com where it says shop and then it says supplements. If you click on that, you'll see a link to one of the supplement companies that I like. It's called Designs for Health. It's an excellent company, very, very trusted. And that's really the one that I tend to rely on for many of my supplements that I recommend for patients. So hopefully that was helpful. And we can include that link in the email that we send out as well. I've heard that having intercourse every day decreases the amount and quality of sperm, and the recommendation is to have intercourse every other day. What is your recommendation? What about the 2 days of ovulation, and how often do we have to have intercourse? So excellent question. What I'll say first and foremost is, if you don't have any sperm quality issues, you can have intercourse daily if you'd like. There's no need to have intercourse twice a day or multiple times in a day. But certainly you can have it every day. It becomes more of an issue to have it every day if you do have some sperm quality issues. If we know there's some quality issues, then we want to give some time, because the sperm takes about 24 hours to regenerate. So you want to give space for that. So that's why we recommend this every other day. I do often, just kind of as you mentioned, I do often tell patients that if the off day is ovulation, then you can have an extra day of intercourse there. I think it's more valuable there. You don't need to, because sperm can stay alive anywhere from 3 to 4-ish days in the uterus. So you shouldn't have to have it on the day of ovulation or every day, and every other day should be sufficient. But you can add that extra day if you need to. I think that, and how often do we have to? I mean, you know, as I said, that's really what we're looking for, and you want to give yourself the week of intercourse to have intercourse, the week of ovulation to have intercourse every other day.
I'm going to include the video from YouTube on the
Okay, and Aniansi said she's also going to include another link for this video.
not for the intercourse and time.
Oh, and she's going to include a video on the intercourse, or timing intercourse, in the email that she sends out as well. Really good questions, everybody. Okay, so now on to how to improve sex drive. What I find, so I'm going to try and separate this into two things. There's either you don't have the sex drive and you never have, or it's decreased quite a bit, or that because of all the trying to get pregnant and trying to time things appropriately, that it's become a drag and you're not interested in intercourse anymore. It's not the same that it used to be, and so there's so your sex drive has decreased. So first, we need to have, for everybody, men and women, there's two components to our libido. Men, but the ratios of each one is going to be a little bit different. Women are driven first and foremost by emotions, so they have to be mentally there, and men are driven more physically first and then mentally. So, but we need to have both of those things. There's just different ratios for each one. So for men, the physical side of things comes from some of our hormone regulation and balance. So there's two aspects to this. We need to make sure that we have enough testosterone and not too much estrogen. So in terms of increasing our testosterone, we need to work out. Working out is good. It's healthy. And specifically weight training, the stress, the pushing of weights, releases testosterone, increases testosterone generation in the body, and I would encourage you to do some of that. Now, you don't have to do anything excessive or crazy. You don't have to be a weightlifter, bodybuilder. You just need to do a little bit of that, okay? But you want to take yourself you want to push yourself a little bit, so you're actually having to work to lift those weights versus like a lot of reps but low weight. And then we want to avoid increasing estrogen. So first and foremost, we can get estrogen from our food. So if we're eating foods full of hormones, we can get hormones and estrogens. And second, we can get it from our environment. So if you're drinking out of plastic bottles and not metal, then this can cause estrogen. The plastic leach into the water, and you're drinking that. Food specifically, the types of food that specifically can do it is going to be like soy and chia and flax. And although they are good in moderation, we have to be careful of how much we do. So I don't encourage any man to have any soy products, maybe randomly a little bit of soy sauce here and there if you're having sushi or something, but I encourage you to be very careful with that. And then really look around. You shouldn't be microwaving in plastic. You shouldn't be drinking out of plastic. If you have to buy a plastic bottle, then it's a one-time use, or you pour that water into a glass or stainless steel bottle or something else. Those can absolutely have an effect on our hormone levels, which will absolutely have an effect on our sex drive. And then by far the number one thing that affects men's sex drive is going to be stress. So we need to be mindful of how we're managing our stress and be conscious of managing that better for ourselves. Okay. Some men will tell me that, well, having intercourse is a stress reliever. That's great. That's fine. And it might be. But that can't be the only way, because that's not going to happen all the time. And not typically, at least, especially when you're, having to have sex all the time or consciously for conception. So there have to be other ways that you manage your stress. You have to build it into your day and your week, so that it doesn't consume you. Okay, and I'm going to talk about that in just a little bit, how to build that into your day as well. And then, common question that you get asked is, what supplements can I take to affect my sex drive? Well, there's a lot of supplements out there that are promoted for increasing sex drive and libido, preventing premature ejaculation or ED. So first and foremost, the way I work in my practice is a little bit different than that. I'm not just going to tell you to go out and get any supplement to treat your sex drive. What I am going to tell you is, let's go get lab testing first. If we test your hormones, see what's in balance, then take an approach with supplementation and lifestyle changes to affect that, then I think you're going to have a much better outcome in the end. There are some safe things you can do. So L-arginine is a vasodilator, so it's going to increase blood circulation. I kind of call it, it's not quite as strong, but I call it my natural Viagra. So it will help with erections. It will help to help you get one and maintain one. But it's not going to affect sex drive. That's where some other things come in, potentially. But I make recommendations based on what the imbalances are. So if you've got too much estrogen, then we've got to deal with that. If you've got not enough testosterone, we've got to deal with that, and so on. So, and there's the way you're metabolizing your hormones, and there's byproducts. So we have to just look at that whole thing, and the way they're connected. One safe thing that I think is easy for all of you to do, which will help with, which could easily help with sperm quality, resetting your diet and getting you started on the right track when it comes to food, and hopefully kind of balancing out your hormones a little bit before you start supplementing, is a detox. And I would encourage you all to do a liver detox, but it's a gentle one. It's not one of these crazy ones. And I like to do one that's like 2 to 3 days. Sorry, not 2 to 3 days, 2 to 3 weeks long, because it helps, preferably the 3 week, because it helps to set the tone and gets you started on the right step when it comes to your nutrition as well. And then you can add in some of those supplements afterwards. With all the holidays right now, don't do it now unless you're going to use the 3 weeks between Thanksgiving and Christmas. Then you can do it if you wanted to, but that's really the only timeline you have, and you've got to start pretty much right when Thanksgiving ends and move forward up until Christmas. Outside of that, I would just say, just wait to the new year and start in the new year and take advantage of that. There's very, very little times that I say that, but this is definitely one of them. So before we go on to the last subject, I'm also going to check again to see what questions we have. Let's see here. Good. No, it looks like we've answered all of them. Okay, good. So now on to the last topic, which is how to better support your partner. So, just recently in my do-it-yourself program called My Fertility School, I spoke on Friday to all the women who were part of that group, and I talked about something called flex time, the thing that I call flex time. So I want to elaborate here, because I think it's going to be important for us individually and as couples to really get things moving in the right direction. So flex time is time that it's flexible in the sense that it's flexible for you, which is why I call it flex time, but it's not flexible for anybody else. This is an appointment that you are setting with yourself, for yourself, or for and with your partner, that is not allowed to be changed. Oftentimes when we are making appointments, right? I've got my dentist appointment, I can't change it. I've got, I've got meetings at work, I can't change those things. I've got whatever it is, those things are non-negotiable, right? Well, flex time is non-negotiable. You look at your schedule, it says flex time, and it says time to exercise or time to meditate or time to have a date night with my wife or whatever it might be. Just because it says flex time, that is a non-negotiable time. It cannot be changed. It's set in stone. You can't change it. So it's just as if you had a meeting with your boss and you're not allowed to change it. Just this time you're the boss or your wife's the boss and it's not allowed to be changed. Okay? But you need to create this flex time in multiple ways. You individually need to have flex time for yourself for the things you want to do. Your partner has to have flex time for what they want to do. And then you have to have flex time together. And so you have to build this into your week. So for me, I love watching, as we mentioned, I love watching football on Sundays. So even if the Dolphins stink, I'm going to watch the Dolphins on Sunday because that's what gives me enjoyment, at least most of the time. So I'm going to create that time for myself, and my wife knows it. If it's for you because you want to go surfing, then that's great. Then you have to create that time. And if your wife wants to do whatever she does, she wants to hang out with her sister or her friends, or she wants to do something else. Those are things, what you're creating when you're creating flex time for yourself is you're creating time for things that feed your soul or that are beneficial to you and your health and your fertility. That's what that's for. And then for sure, once a week, you have to have flex time that you're going on a date night with your partner and you're not allowed to talk about fertility. You guys talk about fertility all the time. It consumes you and it takes over your life. This flex time is to reconnect with one another. Talk about other things. Talk about family. Talk about the places you want to go, the things you want to do, the life you want to live, the plans you have for 2016, whatever it might be. Talk about those things, but you're not allowed to talk about fertility. Take time to just enjoy each other like you did when you first started dating and have fun. Don't go to a movie. Okay, because there's no talking in a movie. Don't go to a movie. If you want to go out to dinner first and spend time with each other and then just relax and go to a movie, that's fine. But you need to have time, at least somewhere in there, that is going to be devoted to the two of you. So that's the first thing that I want you to build in when it comes to flex time. And that's also a way for you to manage your stress. So I want those things to kind of go together, okay? The next thing is you have to talk to your wife. And you have to listen to what she's saying, and you have to explain how you're feeling as well. So this goes both ways. Wives want to be listened to. They don't always want things to be fixed. So the hard part for us as men is that sometimes, or not sometimes, many times when our wives are talking to us to tell us something, our natural reaction is to want to fix it. So we want to say, wait, how can I fix this? What can I do? Can I do this? Can I do? And that's where we get frustrated. This is not about fixing anything. It's about listening and just being there for her. And then on the same token, you need to express how you're feeling to her. And it's not about arguing and getting caught up while he's upset or she's upset or this sort of thing. You're just being there to listen to each other, to support each other. And so you're able to express how you feel. She's able to express how she feels. And you're there just to listen and support so that you understand where each other's at, so it's not a surprise. I will tell you that all too often in all of these years of working with fertility, I see too many couples get separated and divorced because of fertility issues. And the primary reason is twofold. They didn't have a strong enough relationship to begin with, and then they didn't support each other and listen to each other during the process. You need to be there for one another. It's not an easy process, and I encourage you to listen, support, and be there for each other. And I can't stress this enough. It's not about trying to fix anything. It's about being there. There'll be other times to fix things. There's plenty of things for us to fix, I promise. But this is not the time. Unless she specifically says, I need your help to do whatever it might be. And then you're there to fix, right? And then the other ways that you can support your wife or partner is to help her out. And there's some key areas that I think are important when it comes to helping. The first one is tracking. If she's taking her basal temperature and she's tracking her ovulation and her menstrual cycles, then I encourage you to actually be the person who's tracking her temperatures. And by that I mean you can't take your temperature for her, right? She still has to take it. But women often get stressed out when they are seeing their temperatures fluctuate every day. And there's very little that they can do about these fluctuations. So the one thing that I encourage you to do, and I discovered this when my wife and I were trying to have our kids, was that she takes the temperature, she doesn't look at it, she just hands it over to you, okay? And whether you read it right at that moment or save it for later, it stores the number. You're the person who's documenting the numbers. You're the person who's tracking the cycle. And at the end of each cycle, you can go over together and you can see how things are changing or shifting. Or, what I have my patients send it to me so that I can look at it so that they don't have to deal with it. And I can tell them what I see and what I think needs to be improved or not improved. But this way, you can support her in that process and you can be a part of that process. Because all too often they feel like they're doing everything and you're not doing anything. Secondly, you can be there at home to support her. You can do some extra shopping. You can do some cleaning and preparing at home. You can do cooking for the week and help her cook and prepare food for the week. And that could be something that you guys do together and that's special for you two, right? So you want to be there to support her. The other thing is ask her, how can I better support you? What are the things that you can do that are realistic for you to do in ways that you can support her? And then the other thing is understanding what she's going through. So, it's sometimes difficult to understand what she's going through, but I encourage you to try to figure that out. One way that you can do that is I wrote an ebook, which is very simple. It's called The Secret to Conception. It goes over all the ups and downs and challenges and how to get through those things. And so you can do that. You can read that and work through it. And part of that ebook also has downloadable MP4s or MP3s, whatever they are, that you can. There are meditations, guided meditations, and you guys can do those together, or you can find ones that you like for yourself as well and use those for your meditation. So I think there's multiple ways that you can support her. You can come up with your ideas that I just mentioned, or you can ask her how you can better support her. And then we'll send you a link for some of these things so you can, including The Secret to Conception, so that you can have that accessible for you after this talk. Let's see here. Let's see what other questions we have as we're getting close to wrapping up. Give me 1 second to refresh the page. Okay, I've got all the questions I have. I'm going to give you all a second. I'm done talking about all the major things that I wanted to talk about. Try and post your questions here. I'm happy to answer them. I want this to be valuable and useful for you, and hopefully it has been. Please post some questions so that I can help you answer them. We've got about 10 more minutes that I want to use for all of you. And while you all are posting that question, posting your questions, I'll tell you a little bit about how I work with patients and can support them. I've got a 3-month program where I help evaluate, review current lab work, diagnose patients, and then create a treatment plan to make real change and affect real sperm quality issues in my patients. And we've seen excellent results. And if this is something that you guys want to do, you can sign up for a free consultation. I'm happy to talk to you about your needs and see if we're a good fit for one another. We might not be, but that's okay. I'm happy to give you constructive information that you can utilize and use on that free call. So let's see if we've got some other questions here. Okay, seems like I've answered everybody's questions. We're going to give it a couple more minutes. I'm going to stick around. Hopefully all of you found this valuable, and I'm here now to answer your questions. If not, feel free to post questions later on, and we'll do the best we can to answer those as well. Anything you want me to cover in addition?
No.
Okay.
Just reminding them on the email there's the links.
Yeah, in the email that we'll be sending out, we're going to send you links to everything we've discussed so that you have those readily available and can access those easily. Okay, awesome. Let's see if there's any extra questions before we sign off. All right. I wish all of you a happy Thanksgiving. For those of you that are celebrating it, have a wonderful holiday season, and we'll see you on the next call. All right.